My name is Anna, and what I'm about to tell you happened 2 days ago. I still haven't slept properly since. I'm writing this because I'm afraid that if I don't put it into words, I'll start convincing myself it wasn't real. I live with my daughter, Marina. She's 8. Our life isn't rich, but it's steady. I work long shifts at a grocery store, count every bill twice, and make sure there's always soup on the stove. We survive. That's enough. My husband, Sergey, didn't survive. After his mother died, something inside him collapsed. He drowned himself in vodka slowly, day after day. I tried. God knows I tried. But grief turned into rage, rage into silence, and silence into bottles hidden behind the washing machine. 2 years ago, his heart gave out. Alcoholism, the doctors said. As if that word explained anything. After the funeral, I threw almost everything away. His clothes, his shoes, his stupid chipped coffee mug he refused to replace. I couldn't stand the reminders, but big enough to feel the tension. I wanted a clean start. 2 days ago, I came home from work around 7 in the evening. Marina was at the kitchen table doing her homework, legs swinging under the chair. Everything was normal. Quiet. Safe. I had just taken off my coat when someone knocked. 3 firm knocks. Not loud. Not aggressive. Just deliberate. I froze, waiting for Marina to react, thinking maybe it was one of her classmates or the neighbor from upstairs. But Marina looked up at me, confused. "Mom, are you expecting someone?" "No," I said. I walked to the door and looked through the peephole. The staircase was empty. The flickering yellow bulb above the railing hummed softly. No shadows. No footsteps echoing down the stairs. I opened the door anyway. Nothing. Cold air drifted in from the stairwell. That's all. I closed it and locked both bolts. Maybe kids playing. Maybe someone knocked on the wrong door. I tried to shake it off. 10 minutes later, it happened again. 3 knocks. This time Marina jumped. "Mom, someone's there." I rushed back to the door, heart pounding harder than it should have. Peephole. Empty. I yanked the door open immediately. Silence. Just the smell of damp concrete and old paint. "Did you see anyone?" I asked Marina. She shook her head. "No, but I heard it." So did I. That night, I double-checked the locks. Twice. I told myself it was nothing. I was wrong. That night I barely slept. Every time I started drifting off, my mind replayed the knocking. 3 steady taps. Not random. Not like pipes or neighbors. It sounded intentional. Measured. Around 3 in the morning, a loud slam exploded through the apartment. I shot up in bed. For a split second, I thought something had fallen in the kitchen. A cabinet door, maybe. But then I realized the sound had come from the hallway. From the front door. Marina stirred beside me. She'd crawled into my bed after the second knock earlier that evening. I held my breath and listened. Silence. I slowly slid out of bed and walked into the hallway. My legs felt weak, like I was walking through water. The apartment was dark except for the faint streetlight leaking through the curtains. The front door was wide open, both locks undone. The cold air from the stairwell crept across the floor, brushing against my bare feet. I know I locked it. I remember the metallic click under my fingers. Twice. My first thought wasn't ghosts. It was worse. A person. Someone had been inside. Marina. I whispered. "I'm here," she answered from the bedroom, voice trembling. I stepped into the stairwell and looked. Up and down the concrete. Stairs. Empty. No footsteps. No sound of a door closing somewhere below. If someone had opened it, they would have had to pass me to leave. Unless they were still inside. I checked every room. Closet. Bathroom. Under the bed. Nothing. I shut the door again and locked it. This time I pressed my forehead against the wood for a few seconds, trying to calm my breathing. Maybe I forgot to lock it. Maybe exhaustion blurred my memory. But deep inside, something whispered, "No." I lay awake until morning. At around 7, the alarm rang. I forced myself up, head heavy, eyes burning. I walked into the kitchen to make coffee. And that's when I saw it. On the table, Near the window stood a familiar white mug with a blue stripe along the rim. Sergei's mug. The chipped one. I stopped breathing. I threw it away. I remember the weight of it in my hand, dropping it into the trash bag. I remember tying the bag and taking it outside to the dumpster myself. It couldn't be here. But it was. There was even a faint brown stain at the bottom, as if someone had just finished drinking from it. I didn't scream. I just stared. Marina walked in, rubbing her eyes. "Mom, why is Dad's cup here?" My blood ran cold. I never showed her that mug after his death. "How do you know that's Dad's?" I asked quietly. She shrugged. "He always drank from that one." The room felt smaller, the air heavier. I picked up the mug with shaking hands. It was warm. Warm. The mug slipped from my hands and shattered against the floor. The sound was sharp, violent, too loud for such a small kitchen. Marina flinched and covered her ears. I stared at the broken pieces. Steam still rose faintly from the largest shard. I could see the blue stripe clearly, the exact crack along the side where Sergei once dropped it on the sink. It wasn't just similar. It was the same one. "Did you touch it?" I asked Marina. She shook her head immediately. "No, I just saw it." My hands were trembling so badly I had to grip the edge of the counter. I told myself there had to be an explanation. Maybe I didn't throw it out. Maybe I imagined that part. Grief does strange things to memory. But the warmth. I knelt down and touched one of the shards again, just to be sure. Still warm. I cleaned it up without saying another word. Wrapped the pieces in newspaper. Took them straight outside to the trash container behind the building. This time I watched the garbage truck drive away an hour later. I watched the container get lifted and emptied. No mistakes. When I came back upstairs, I found Marina lying on the couch. Her cheeks were red. "Mom, I feel weird." I touched her forehead. She was burning. By noon, her temperature was 38.9 degrees Celsius. By 1, it was over 39. We went to the hospital. The doctor said it was probably a virus. Children catch things easily. He prescribed medicine and told us to rest. Nothing unusual. Except Marina kept looking at the door of the examination room like she was, expecting someone to walk in. "Who are you looking for?" I asked. She hesitated. "Dad doesn't like hospitals," she whispered. The words hit me harder than they should have. "Marina," I said firmly, "Dad is gone." She looked confused. "I know, but he was standing behind you in the kitchen." My stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" "This morning, when you were holding the cup. He was behind you, but he didn't look like Dad." I felt the room tilt slightly. How did he look? She swallowed, pale, and his eyes were black. I told myself children imagine things, especially after losing a parent. But Marina had never described anything like that before. On the way home, instead of going straight to the apartment, I stopped in front of the small church near the bus stop. I don't go often. Not since Sergei died. But something was wrong, and I needed help. I don't know what I expected when I stepped into the church. A sign, maybe. A sudden feeling of peace. Instead, the air inside felt thick with incense and old wood. It was quiet, too quiet. My footsteps echoed softly across the stone floor. Marina held my hand tighter than usual. A priest stood near the candles, speaking quietly with an elderly woman. When he noticed us, he approached. He looked to be in his late 50s, tired eyes, steady posture. "Can I help you?" He asked gently. I didn't plan what to say. The words just came out. "I think something is in my apartment." He didn't smile, didn't dismiss it. He just listened. I told him about the knocking, the door opening, the mug, Marina's fever, the figure she saw. He asked no dramatic questions, just simple ones. "Did your husband struggle with faith?" "Yes." "Did he die peacefully?" "No." The priest nodded slowly, as if confirming something only he understood. "Sometimes," he said carefully, "when grief, guilt, and fear remain in a place for a long time, they attract things." What things? I whispered. Not necessarily your husband, he replied, but something that can imitate him. Marina shifted beside me. It feeds on fear, he continued, on attention, on emotional energy. If it is what I think it will grow stronger the more you react. My throat went dry. Can you come bless the apartment? He hesitated. Yes, but understand this. Blessing a home removes what is invited. It does not always remove what is already attached itself. Attached to what? I asked. To a person. I felt Marina's fingers tighten around mine. He agreed to come that evening. On the way back home, I ran into our neighbor from across the hall, Nikolaevna. She was carrying grocery bags and looked irritated. You hear that noise at night? She asked abruptly. What noise? Doors slamming. Heavy steps in the stairwell. Around 3 in the morning. My heart skipped. Every night? I asked. For the past 2 nights. 2 nights. Exactly when it started. I thought maybe you had visitors, she added, peering at me strangely. No, I said quickly. She narrowed her eyes but didn't press further. That evening, I cooked soup for Marina. She barely ate. Her fever had dropped slightly, but her eyes looked distant. Distracted. You feel better? I asked. She nodded slowly. Mom? Yes. If Dad comes back, will he be angry? The spoon froze halfway to my mouth. Dad isn't coming back, I said firmly. But deep down, I wasn't sure what was coming at all. At 8 o'clock, the priest arrived. And when he stepped inside, his expression changed. The moment the priest crossed the threshold, he stopped. Not dramatically. Not like in movies. He simply paused mid-step, as if he had walked into something invisible. The air felt different again, heavy, but also charged, like before a storm. He closed the door behind him and quietly said, Do not speak unless I ask you to. Marina stood behind me, clutching my sweater. The priest began walking slowly through the hallway, sprinkling holy water along the walls. The droplets left dark marks that slid downward like thin tears. When he reached the kitchen, he stopped again. What was here? He asked without turning. I swallowed. A mug. My husband's. He nodded once. He began reading prayers, low, steady, almost mechanical. The words filled the apartment, echoing strangely off the walls. I noticed something odd. The light in the kitchen flickered. Not violently, but rhythmically, as if reacting to each phrase. Marina whimpered softly. Stay with me, I whispered. The priest moved into the bedroom. That's when the temperature dropped. Not gradually. Suddenly. My breath became visible. The priest's voice grew louder, more forceful. In the name of... A loud bang interrupted him. The front door. It slammed shut so violently the frame shook. Marina screamed. I ran into the hallway. The door was still closed, locked. The priest stepped out of the bedroom slowly. His face had gone pale. It's aware now, he said quietly. Of what? My voice cracked. Of resistance. He continued the blessing, but faster this time. Sharper. More urgent. As he passed Marina, she gasped. What? I asked her. She was staring over my shoulder. It's behind you. My blood froze. I didn't turn around immediately. I don't know why. Maybe some instinct told me not to. The priest did. His hand tightened around the cross hanging from his neck. Leave, he commanded into the empty space behind me. Silence. Then, a faint sound. Breathing. Not mine. Not Marina's. Slow. Wet. Close. I turned. For a split second, I saw it reflected in the dark TV screen across the room. A tall figure standing right behind me. Its skin was pale, almost grey, stretched too tightly over sharp cheekbones. Its mouth hung slightly open. Its eyes. Black. Completely black. Not empty. Not hollow. Just black. And smiling. I spun around. Nothing was there. But the breathing continued for another 2 seconds. Then stopped. The priest lowered his cross slowly. It is not your husband, he said firmly. Then what is it? I whispered. It imitates grief, he replied. It wears familiar shapes. He finished the blessing, but when he reached the door to leave, he hesitated again. You should not stay here tonight. I have nowhere else, I said. He looked at Marina. It is already attached. My heart dropped. To her. I asked. He didn't answer directly. It feeds on fear. Do not let it isolate you. When he left, the apartment felt quieter, but not safer. That night, Marina insisted on sleeping next to me again. I couldn't breathe. Marina's fingers dug into my arm. Don't move, she whispered. The mattress dipped. Slowly, gradually, as if something heavy had just settled down beside me. But I was already at the very edge of the bed. There was no space left. A cold sensation brushed against my back. Not fabric. Not skin. Something colder than air. I forced myself to turn my head. At first, I saw nothing. Just darkness. Then my eyes adjusted. A shape lay inches away from my face. It was facing me. Too close. Its features were barely visible, but I could make out the outline of a forehead, a nose, lips slightly parted, and those eyes. Black. Not reflecting light. Not blinking. Just watching. A faint smile stretched across its pale face, wider than a human smile should go. I couldn't scream. My throat locked. Marina did it for both of us. The creature's head tilted unnaturally, as if curious. Then it spoke. Not loudly. Not clearly. But I heard it. Anna. It sounded like Sergei's voice. Distorted. Wet. As if spoken through water. The mattress sank deeper. That broke whatever paralysis held me. I grabbed Marina and rolled off the bed. We hit the floor hard. I scrambled to my feet, dragging her with me. The bed was empty, but the blanket slowly folded inward, as if something invisible had just stood up from it. I didn't wait. We ran. I didn't grab clothes. Didn't grab money. I only grabbed my keys from the hallway hook and pulled Marina out of the apartment. The stairwell lights flickered as we ran down. Behind us. 3 knocks. From inside the apartment. Not on the door. On the other side of it. Deliberate. Measured. When we burst out of the building entrance, the cold night air hit my lungs painfully. I turned instinctively toward our window on the 4th floor. And I saw it. Standing behind the glass. Watching us. Its head pressed slightly to the side, as if listening. Even from that distance, I could see the black of its eyes. And that smile. Marina buried her face into my coat. It's looking at us, she sobbed. Yes, I whispered. It didn't move. It didn't need to. Because it knew we would have to come back. Unless we didn't. I thought of only one place. Nikolaevna. The neighbor across the hall. We ran to her entrance. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely press the intercom button. She answered groggily. Who is it? It's Anna. Please, open the door. A pause. Then the buzz of the lock releasing. We ran inside. And as the entrance door closed behind us, I heard it again. 3 slow knocks. This time, from the outside. Nikolaevna opened her apartment door before we even reached it. She took one look at Marina's tear-streaked face and stepped aside without questions. Come in. Quickly. Her apartment smelled of old books and fried onions. Warm. Safe. Human. I locked her door myself. What happened? She asked. I didn't tell her everything. I couldn't. I just said someone had been inside my apartment. That we were scared. That we needed to stay the night. She studied my face for a long second. Then she nodded. You can sleep here. Marina lay down on Nikolaevna's couch almost immediately, exhausted. Within minutes, she fell into a restless sleep. I sat at the kitchen table with a glass of water I couldn't swallow. Those noises, Nikolaevna said quietly. They didn't sound like neighbors. I looked up slowly. What did they sound like? Like someone walking barefoot. Slow. Dragging their feet. My chest tightened. Did you ever hear knocking? I asked. She hesitated. Yes. How many? She stared at me. 3. Silence filled the kitchen. We both heard it at the same time. A dull thud. From her front door. Nikolaevna froze. Another knock. 3 times. Measured. Identical. My pulse roared in my ears. It followed us, I whispered. Nikolaevna stood up, surprisingly steady. Stay here, she said. She walked toward the door. No. I hissed, but she was already there. She leaned toward the peephole. For a few seconds, she didn't move. Then her breathing changed. Slow. Shallow. Nikolaevna. I whispered. She didn't answer. Her hand slowly unlocked the top bolt. What are you doing? I rushed toward her. She opened the bottom lock. Her movements were calm. Mechanical. Like she wasn't fully present. The handle turned. The door opened. The stairwell beyond was empty. But Nikolaevna's face went pale. It's tall, she whispered. There's nothing there. I grabbed her arm. Her eyes shifted slightly downward. As if it's bending, she continued quietly. Then her expression twisted into horror. It's smiling. I slammed the door shut with all my strength and threw both locks back in place. Nikolaevna staggered backward as if something had pulled away from her. What did you see? I demanded. She looked at me. Not confused. Not doubtful. Terrified. It wasn't outside, she said. My stomach dropped. Then where? Her eyes slowly moved past me. Toward the hallway. I turned. Marina was standing there. Awake. Staring at us. But something was wrong. Her posture was stiff. Her head tilted slightly to the side. And when she smiled, it was too wide. Too familiar. Mom, she said softly. But the voice wasn't hers. Mom, it repeated. The voice came from Marina's mouth, but it carried a deeper tone beneath it, like two voices layered together. My legs felt weak. Marina, I whispered carefully, come here. She didn't blink. Her head remained tilted at that unnatural angle. Nikolaevna clutched the wall behind her. That's not your child, she breathed. Marina, or whatever was standing in her place, took one slow step forward. Bare feet against the wooden floor. No sound. Her smile widened. You shouldn't have left, it said. The voice was clearer now. It sounded like Sergei, but stretched, distorted, as if someone was wearing his voice like a mask. I told you, it continued, eyes fixed on me. We are a family. My chest tightened with a mixture of terror and rage. You're not him, I said, forcing the words out. Marina's body twitched. For a fraction of a second, her expression flickered, like a glitch. Then the smile snapped back into place. It feeds on fear, I remembered the priest saying. The air in the apartment felt heavy again. Colder. I forced myself to breathe slower. You're not welcome here, I said more firmly. Marina's blackened eyes narrowed slightly. Behind me, something tapped softly on Nikolaevna's front door. 3 times. Without breaking eye contact, Marina whispered, Let me in. The locks on the door rattled. From the inside. Nikolaevna gasped. It's at both places, she whispered. I realized something terrible. It didn't need to move. It didn't need to choose a body. It wasn't attached to a place. It was attached to us. Marina, I said gently, stepping closer despite every instinct screaming not to. Listen to me. You're stronger than this. For the first time, her expression changed. Pain. Real pain flickered across her face. Mom, she whispered, this time sounding like herself. Then her body jerked violently. She collapsed onto the floor. The lights exploded. Every bulb in the apartment shattered at once, plunging us into darkness. In that darkness, I heard breathing. Close. But not from Marina. Something moved behind me. A whisper against my ear. You can't run. I grabbed Marina from the floor and held her tightly. I'm not running, I said into the darkness, voice shaking but loud. You don't get her. Silence. The pressure in the room shifted. Then, a final knock. 3 times. But softer. Almost distant. And then, nothing. The heaviness lifted. The cold faded. Marina stirred in my arms. "Mom," she whispered weakly. Her eyes were normal. Brown. Human. Nikolaevna fumbled for a flashlight. The apartment looked ordinary again. Broken glass everywhere. But empty. It felt gone. At least for now. I didn't sleep that night. By morning, I had made a decision. I would sell the apartment. I didn't care how cheap. I didn't care about the memories. We weren't going back. I thought distance would end it. I was wrong. We stayed with Nikolaevna for the next 2 days. Life resumed a fragile normality. Marina went back to school, her laughter returning slowly. I went to work, tried to focus on the mundane, the everyday. It was peaceful. For a moment, I allowed myself to believe the nightmare was over. Until the night before yesterday. I had just returned from work. The apartment felt heavier than usual. Not ours, Nikolaevna's. But something had shifted. The shadows in the corners seemed deeper, stretched toward the walls, curling like smoke. I was carrying Marina's backpack when I heard it. Soft, deliberate knocking. 3 taps. My heart froze. I ran to the door. It was locked. Fully locked. I even checked twice. Nothing outside. Just the faint yellow light from the street lamp. The knocks continued, inside, from the hallway that led to the bathroom. I didn't know what to do. I called Nikolaevna. She came running. We checked. Nothing. No one. The sound stopped the moment she touched the hallway floor. Marina woke up screaming. "It's here!" She cried. I held her, whispered that everything was fine. But I knew it wasn't. Something was still following us. Following her. Following me. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every creak, every groan of the old building felt like footsteps. My mind played tricks. Shadows moved in my peripheral vision. The air felt charged. The next morning, I tried to convince myself it was just fear, anxiety, stress. Children imagine things. Adults imagine things. But when I opened the cupboard to make coffee, I found something I had never expected. A pair of Sergei's worn sneakers. On the shelf. Clean. Out of place. I hadn't brought them. I hadn't seen them in years. I froze. Marina tugged my sleeve. "Mom." "It followed us," she whispered. Her eyes were wide and red-rimmed. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The apartment wasn't ours. We weren't safe. I realized then that running, hiding, nothing would stop it. It didn't need the apartment. It didn't need a body. It only needed our fear. And it was patient. It could wait. It could watch. And it would return. I knew, deep in my bones, that whatever this thing was, it wasn't done with us yet. That night, I sat by Marina, holding her tight. My hand shook so badly I could barely pour the water for tea. I whispered promises I didn't fully believe, that we were safe, that it wouldn't touch us. I was lying. 3 slow knocks echoed through the apartment. From nowhere. From everywhere. I didn't move. I couldn't. I just held Marina. And waited. Because I knew the thing outside, the thing behind her eyes, was only just beginning. We had nowhere to run. And no one to fight it with. The next day, I tried to find help. I called the priest, but he was away on some ceremony. He told me to stay calm, but I knew better. Calmness wouldn't protect us. Nothing would. I spent the morning cleaning, organizing, trying to make the apartment feel like a home again, but everything felt wrong. The walls seemed too close, the shadows too dark. Marina clung to me constantly, her small hand trembling in mine. That night, I prepared dinner quietly, trying not to alarm her. I could feel it before it even happened. The air thickened. My skin crawled. The same slow, deliberate knocks began again. 3. I froze. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might burst. Marina peeked around the corner of the kitchen. Her eyes were wide, pale in the dim light. "Mom, it's here again." I swallowed my fear. I had to act. I grabbed her, pulled her toward the bedroom. My hand shook violently. I whispered promises I didn't believe. Then I saw it. It was standing in the doorway. Not fully visible. just enough to know it was there. Tall, pale, black-eyed, smiling. That same distorted, wet smile. "You can't hide," it whispered. I screamed. Marina screamed. But no one came. The walls seemed to swallow our cries. The creature stepped forward, slow, deliberate, each footfall silent. I remembered the priest's warning. It feeds on fear. I forced myself to stay calm. Took a deep breath. "You don't have power here," I said firmly. It paused, tilted its head, studied me, like testing the statement. "You think fear is your only weakness," it said, voice layered with Sergei's tone. "But it is not." It began to move closer. My stomach turned to ice. I grabbed a knife from the kitchen counter, waving it desperately. Not to fight, just to keep it away. Marina hid behind me, clutching my shirt. And then, just as suddenly as it appeared, it vanished. No trace. No sound. The apartment fell silent. For the first time in days, I dared to breathe. But deep down, I knew this wasn't the end. It would return. It always does. Because it doesn't need a home. It doesn't need a body. It only needs fear. And it has plenty to feed on. I hugged Marina tight, whispered into her hair that we would survive. But I didn't believe it. Not really. I just hoped. Hoped that by staying together, we could endure the waiting, the watching, and the coming of the thing that haunted our lives. And somewhere deep in the shadows, I knew it was smiling, waiting, patient, hungry, for us. The end, for now.